Moving on to the next panel, this takes us straight from disinformation. And actually, it was something that Cecilia talked about, which is still extremely relevant. And this is looking at brand safety and brand suitability for emerging channels. As many people are aware, IAB Europe, this has been a core remit for us this year. A couple of months ago, we launched a guide to brand safety and CTV. And we have one of our committees that's now working on brand safety and audio. And then later in the year, we'll be tackling in gaming. So I'm delighted to introduce one of my colleagues from IAB UK, Tina, who will be moderating this panel. Tina, I'm going to go straight over to you so you can introduce your panelists.
Great, thank you so much, Lauren, and good morning everyone, or afternoon, depending where you're based. Thank you for joining us on our panel on brand safety and suitability for emerging channels. As Lauren introduced, my name is Tina Lakhani. I'm head of AdTech at IAB UK, and I was really excited when contacted about this panel because in my role over the last year or year and a half, the topic of brand safety and suitability has just really blown up. And from what I've seen over the last year, most especially during the pandemic, I've seen how brand safety and suitability is perhaps just perceived as just a digital challenge, but it's one that can have a real life impact on world issues, especially when so much of the world is reliant on consuming digital content. We just had a fantastic panel on disinformation and the dangers of it. And that's just one of the reasons why we have to be making sure that we're placing our ads effectively and intentionally. And this conversation about how we get brand safety and suitability right within emerging channels is a really important one because talking about this topic early on provides us an opportunity to consider some of the learnings we've made in more traditional digital channels and to consider how we can apply them to new channels in effort to help us avoid making the same mistake in emerging channels. So with that, I'm really excited to introduce my panel of guest speakers today who are joining me to discuss this topic. And we have Stevan Randjelovic. Sorry, Stevan, if I've said that wrong, but he is a Director of Digital Risk and Brand Safety at GroupM. We have Bahar Bozdogan, from Product Marketing Lead of Measurement at TikTok. Dave Burton, Senior Director of EMEA for Head of Product at Samsung Ads, and Craig Ziegler, SVP of Product from Integral Ad Science. Thank you all so much for joining the panel this morning. Stevan, I work with you a lot and we've worked a lot on this topic over the last year. I know you basically live and breathe this topic, so maybe if I come over to you first to just give an introduction before we get into the thick of it, to just give us an introduction of what is brand safety and suitability and what are the difference between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tina, and thanks to IAB Europe for having me here today. So the difference between brand safety and suitability is that brand safety is a type of content that should never be monetized. So it is the content that not only you shouldn't think whether your advertising is adjacent to, you should never receive any monetization opportunity. And then we have the brand suitability. Brand suitability basically goes on scale from high to low risk. And it is very much, as the word says, it is very much defined what is suitable to a specific brand. So brand safety is for everyone. Brand suitability is specific to a brand. And one final point is in the preparation of this call, we had somebody asked, but is this topic mentioned so many times, or have we discussed it so many times? And yes, we have, but I think while we are thinking so much about suitability, we forget the basics of the brand safety. And that's what I wanted to really stress. Brand safety as a challenge is not gone. We are still funding disinformation. We are still funding lots of bad content, including some harmful content, including terrorist content, child endangerment. So that is something that we have to keep addressing while developing the suitability solutions.
Yeah, definitely. Still a long way to go in making sure that we've resolved this challenge, even just within the traditional channels. But Dave, actually, that leads on quite nicely to thinking of brand safety and suitability within emerging channels. Listening to what Stefan's definition is, do you think that brand safety and suitability looks different in new and emerging channels like CTV, for example?
I think the principles are the same, so the concepts would all be aligned on, but then the devil's in the detail as always. And I can talk from the perspective of CTV. And as I say those three letters, people have a different idea of what CTV might mean. Some people immediately jump to an in-stream video ad. Are you buying CTV on your media plan? But for me, particularly in a product perspective and working at Samsung from a device manufacturer's point of view, the CTV is the device itself, the smart TV, the connected TV. And I guess the lens through which we view everything is we're a consumer-facing company first and foremost. So anything that the ads product team are doing to show ads in that environment has to be complementary in terms of brand safety. It's a given, and brand suitability is also a given for us. It has to be. It's led by the consumer-facing product managers, because without the consumers, we don't have an audience to monetize. So we have to make sure that everything we're doing in that environment is upholding those two principles. And there's lots of different ways we can do it, through policy and emerging technologies, and also some more foundational technologies that we implement. The challenges are the same, but the means in which you uphold brand safety and suitability are dependent on the environments. And I think probably everyone here knows that connected TV as an environment is a lot more advantageous in this space, because it's such a closed ecosystem at the moment. We own and operate everything that's going on in the TV, from the ad units that we serve around the navigation menu. We call them native engagement ads, or really content discovery ads. So that bit about suitability, if someone's paid £1,000, £2,000 or dollars for a TV, they don't want to be bombarded with irrelevant ads. So a lot of the ads that they're seeing are a content discovery ad. So Apple TV Plus might run ads to promote the Apple TV Plus app. Now TV might run an ad for the Anthony Joshua fight last Saturday, which we won't talk about. We'll wait for his rematch, and so on. So you can see, naturally, it's not just the content, it's the device itself. And then when you get into safety and suitability as well, a mobile device is very one-to-one. A TV is a shared device in the home. Often there's children, under 18s in the home. So again, we've got to be very careful about the types of content and ads that we serve around that environment. So again, policies, the obvious is no violence, no politics, no religion, and all that kind of stuff. So you can see from a TV perspective, and there's some examples there where it's more locked down, it's more owned and operated, but the challenges are the same from a principal perspective.
Yeah, really interesting point, especially from the one-to-many perspective. I hadn't even started to think about that. Bahar, I know that TikTok have done some research on this area recently, so it'd be great to come to you just to get some of the findings that you had.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, in understanding this topic deeper, we did research earlier this year as part of our product development process. And I can share a couple of high-level findings. So firstly, we found that traditional verification methods, and this was mentioned in the earlier session as well, such as keyword lists or block lists in general, could take a sledgehammer approach to brand safety and suitability. And this could result in higher costs or just general impact for performance. And so the finding is that the advertisers are looking for a solution that would allow them to customize to their needs and protect our reputation. Secondly, we found that advertisers are looking for partners that can provide controls around the GARM framework. So this is the importance of standards and how this applies to across safety and suitability. And then another one is transparency in reporting, ideally via a dashboard, and post-campaign reporting is vital to ensuring the effectiveness. When this is in the context of either first-party or third-party suitability verification solutions.
Yeah. That's it. Probably leads on quite nicely. Craig, I'm sure you have lots to say on that from an IAS point of view. Like when thinking of tools and measurement of brand safety and suitability within new and emerging channels, like how do you think it differs, or what are the capabilities within those new environments?
Yeah, thank you. It's a very good question. When I think of, let's say, traditional digital channels, many of those are text-based in terms of the media and how they're consumed, and tactics like keyword block lists were used because of the text-based nature of the content. In many of these emerging channels, the media that we're talking about is heavy image, video, audio. Very few of it is text-based content. So when you think about brand safety, brand suitability in these emerging channels, the ability to do image classification, video classification, the classification of an audio track becomes really important. So that's one. The other one is, and this doesn't apply to all of the channels that we're talking about, but some of them can be UGC or creator-created content, right? And oftentimes metadata associated with that content is much more sparse. There's not as much metadata. It's maybe less reliable. So again, this comes back to the need to be able to look at a video and understand what the context of that video is, for example, to really understand what's going on at a content level. And to do suitability and safety properly, we need to understand the content level, what's happening within that piece of media.
How far along are we in terms of, you mentioned that a lot of the technology that currently exists is around measuring text-based and the need to evolve. Like, how far are we in terms of having those solutions available?
Yeah, there's a lot of advancement. So I know at IAS, we've invested very heavily in this technology this year. There's currently a beta testing that we're doing actually with TikTok on this point. We view, if you think about social platforms, for example, we view this technology truly as the foundation to be able to help brands with brand safety and suitability in social feeds, as an example, and eventually getting to a video level within CTV or a show level within an audio platform, as an example. So really, these capabilities, which we've invested in, we view as foundational.
Great. Dave, I know when we were speaking previously, you mentioned around some testing that you're doing with partners within the CTV environment. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to jump in here to share some of your thoughts of what kind of the use of tools looks like within CTV environment.
Yeah, sure. And as Craig was talking, a lot was going off in my head to reaffirm what he's saying. And I think as a TV manufacturer, consumer-facing business, that's our focus as a company, and therefore we turn to partners and expert partners like IAS, and also we work with companies like Publica that IAS have recently acquired, and they're doing some really interesting stuff in this space. And as Craig was talking, it's largely text-based traditionally, but we have to turn to what's going on through audio and visual within the content itself, particularly the ads that are being served, if we're talking about the alignment of ad content with consumer-facing content. So we can put all the policies in place we want, but they're largely dependent on people and honesty of people, and also the fallibility of people. We make mistakes. So being able to turn to reliable technologies to verify, but also ensure that the right ads are being served in the right place and content. And we partner close with IAS and Publica, and they're doing some really interesting stuff in this space. And I guess there's two parts to what we do. There's our owned and operated environments, but then part of our ads proposition is the ability to extend the campaign into the home, the devices, and publisher content into the home. So if an automotive company is serving ads within our free streaming ad, Samsung TV Plus, or the other apps within the TV environment, we've got a lot of control over that. But as we turn to the other devices in the home, so they might be mobiles with mobile apps, web browsers, websites, and other CTVs in the home, and the apps on those, we turn to IAS to help us verify where those ads are being extended to. And a lot of it's in real time and arguably more reliable than human-based policy. But yeah, so it's a really interesting space.
Yeah,
we're glad to be partnering with them.
Within what Craig was saying as well, you mentioned, Craig, the partnership with TikTok. So Bahar, maybe I come to you with a question just around your platform is entirely UGC content, like completely creator marketing. And so it'd be great to hear from you around how you think brands should start thinking about building brand suitability and safety profiles across emerging channels, TikTok, for example.
Absolutely. Yes, so this is especially important on TikTok. Our content is immersive, visual, viral, and of course, creative. So unlike text-based solutions, in this case, our machine learning model uses text. So we incorporate text, audio, video, and image to be able to classify content at a scale. And this is our approach to both first and third-party verification products. And our first-party brand safety inventory filter, which is currently being in beta testing, as well as the third-party verification solution that Craig mentioned, our partnership with IAS is also in beta testing. This is just the beginning for us in terms of launching a brand safety verification product. And through enhanced machine learning going forward as well, we'll be able to ingest new data points and enable solutions faster with better and greater accuracy. And this is what we can advise to advertisers as well. Just on that, those two products, to hear more, there is a TikTok World event later today, actually. So you can tune in. I invite everyone to hear more and a lot more about our products. In terms of recommendations, one thing I think we can mention also is the use of creators. Brands have to be comfortable in giving control to creators. You mentioned UGC content on our platform. So this is to ensure both branded and non-branded UGC content is suitable to the brand. So we advise our clients to work with creator solutions team to put in place long-term partnerships and relationships so that we have a view to understand how do creators get on the platform in the first place, how are they selected, and how are they vetted throughout the process. So that's really important too, because that is an emerging channel in itself.
Yeah. And Craig and Stevan, I guess you're in a unique position somewhat to be able to work with advertisers on a more holistic level of their brand safety and suitability approach. So I guess maybe from a more holistic level, Stevan, if I maybe come to you first, like how would you recommend brands consider building their brand safety and suitability profiles across emerging?
I would recommend them to look into the GARM brand safety and suitability framework and see where that framework is implemented and how effectively it is implemented. I think we're at a stage for a very long time. The industry has been complaining that there is no standardization. We all think differently. And we're at a stage where that standardization has been achieved to a certain extent. So I would urge everybody, I'll use an expression from my own language, not to invent hot water, and to create additional or very specific suitability frameworks. So whatever, use what is available. And I do think that brands can use that. However, I think it's fair to say that not all channels are ready yet. And I do think that has to do obviously with that some of the definitions are still being polished, but also with some platforms I feel are a bit shy from implementing the full GARM framework. So it's either on or off, and that doesn't really give suitability to any brand. That's not suitability, that's just safety. So if we are speaking about suitability, let's implement suitability. In the meantime, brands can use what is available, different inclusion, exclusion lists where they exist or different categorizations, and they should work with their agencies to map those categorizations to the GARM framework to understand where they sit. Are they low or medium or high risk?
Great, thank you. Craig, would you add anything to that?
I completely agree. I would just highlight, without the GARM framework, a lot of these conversations would start with a keyword list, but with the framework, they can start with that as the basis of the conversation. But certainly brand safety, sort of table stakes, suitability is where a lot of the conversation lies in terms of a brand specific preference. I think that's a great recommendation and a great place to start. And at IS, we're leaning into that framework as well. I think it's important to support, and as you mentioned, you'll see more and more platforms and third parties leaning in as well.
Yeah. No, great. I remember as well when we spoke about this previously, Craig, you mentioned about thinking of taking a more holistic approach in terms of thinking of your brand safety and suitability across all the channels, as opposed to like individual approaches for each channel. And I guess that's really echoed by, or the GARM provides a framework to be able to start doing that. So that's some really interesting points. I'm conscious that we're coming to time. Just with a few minutes left, I'd love to just be able to go around to everyone to get your top tip to brands regarding brand safety and suitability, and like what would your top tip be around brand safety and suitability in new emerging channels? So Dave, maybe if I come to you first.
Sure, and it's probably no surprise that I guess the biggest tip or our strategic commitment is working with partners, who are experts in this place. And whilst it's good for consumers and advertising brands that we can turn largely to a lot more kind of programmatic, automated type advertising, and with that, of course, there's efficiencies around budget and incremental reach and all those great things for the brands, but it becomes more and more complex in terms of the technology and the understanding. So I think you need to go deep with partners who understand the space or this space a lot more. So we're all about partners. So IAS, Publica, and also Double Verify from the previous conversation with David Goddard as well. So yeah, partnerships with the experts. Yeah,
nothing new to add in terms of standards and transparency. We already covered those, but I might add something. The age of participation we're in now, we believe that it's a two-way street. So our recommendation is that brands lean into the conversation, and it's also important that brands actually lead the conversation and encourage their community to speak in a way that reflects their brand. So we're encouraging brands for that. And our goal as a platform in this case is that to enable brands to reach people they care about in a creative and meaningful way, while ensuring a positive and safe environment through first and third party solutions. So it's really allowing brands to be creative and authentic on our platform through flexible controls and transparent reporting.
Great. Yeah, I'm loving both of you has got around like working with others and working with specialists and collaborating more. I love that from an IAB perspective. That's what I love to hear. Craig, I'll come to you.
Yeah, I think collaboration hugely important. I couldn't agree more. I would also say both brand safety, but especially suitability, really requires the precise classification of content, and context is certainly important, but other tools like sentiment and emotion are also important. Understand what tools and capabilities are available, and then also the ability to classify and use those tools in some of multimedia, right, outside of just text. Really important, especially with the topic and the channels that we're talking about today.
Great, thank you. And Stevan, last but not least, let me come to you for your top tip.
I'd agree with everything. And the last thing I would add is for brands and agencies to look beyond the buzz and to look beyond the numbers, dig deeper, do your media vetting and partner vetting properly. And yeah, just do your homework.
Yeah, I love that, especially like beyond the buzz. I think that within our industry, the challenges are always coming and going. And this is such an important one that you're right. You're not just thinking about the buzz challenges right now, but also just thinking of how important this topic is beyond just it right now being such a trending topic. Thank you all so much for your time this morning and for engaging the conversation. It was so interesting as always. And with that, I will pass back to the host. Thanks.